we've got the butte back there.
Yeah.
That's pretty handy and nice. We like that.
Yeah.
Well,
It's good.
thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. We sure appreciate it. We want to welcome Ryan Thomas to the show with Ryan Thomas Horsemanship. He's a local horse trainer here in Eugene, Oregon, and he's somebody I've ridden with quite a few times and really enjoyed his insight and knowledge. And I feel like he has a lot of things that he could say to benefit so many of us within the industry. So it's a pleasure to have him on the show today.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here on my very first podcast. Um, yeah, I feel privileged to be here, and thanks for the invite.
Well, just so you know, it's only my second, so we'll be new at it together. If that makes you feel any better.
Yeah, this is cool. This is cool.
Well, excellent. So you've been traveling quite a bit lately. Tell me what you've had in the works.
Uh, just trying to hit it from every edge of the spectrum. Been judging a bit and um, working on a project in Wickenburg. I've got plans to go there in the wintertime, and so we're putting that project together, and um, those have been the two biggest things. Judged a show here a couple weeks ago, and that's always an educational thing. I'm I'm trying to get more experienced at that. I'm a 2A judge and working on a 3A, and uh, one of my judging mentors is Darren Miller, and he said every time you judge, you're going to learn something, and it's so true. You learn a lot more than one thing.
Right. So do you feel like that experience really helps with your showmanship skills when you enter?
I'm I'm really trying to apply it that way. That's part of why I'm wanting to judge more, is to have a better understanding, and it's taking hold rapidly. I think I undoubtedly it has helped my showmanship, but I'm still formulating all these ideas about uh, how to apply the realizations that I've had as I've been sitting in the judge's stand as well. So
I bet there's a process to that for sure.
yeah, I mean, training the horses is fun, but tricking the judges is part of it too. Like, not necessarily tricking them, but how to present your horse, hopefully to a higher level than it's trained, whatever that level is. That presentation is huge, and so I've got a lot of ideas formulating there, and I'm excited about it.
That's excellent. You hear about it a lot, how the showmanship skills and the horse training skills are definitely two different attributes, and I feel like you see people within the industry that maybe are stronger in one than the other. And I mean, so do you feel like outside of the judging experience, what have you done to try to bridge the gap between the two of those?
Oh man, you can. It's unlimited. You watch videos yourself, send videos to your mentors, uh, try to get their feedback. That's another thing that I've been doing, is just watch voiceovering videos of people's runs or maneuvers, and kind of a little side hustle I've been doing, and that's been huge. If I send a video to one of my mentors and say, "Hey, what do you think of this?" Uh, they usually tell me what they think of it, and it's very helpful. So in the show pen, that's very, very relevant, and and it's our job to figure out that puzzle if we're going to show these horses.
I've actually had the privilege of having you do that voiceover work with.
Have we done them? Nice.
We've done it in a schooling situation. We've also done it in a lesson situation, and I can tell you how valuable that is. It's there's so many things going on in your mind in the moment, even if you're just during a lesson trying to put the pieces together. But to be able to step back later on and watch it as well as hear your coaching and advice while you're watching it is it's so valuable. That is something that I think should maybe even be more prominent in our industry, and and what a tool to give to your non-pro riders.
Yeah, I feel fortunate to have it, and I love sending them home with it, and hearing how it goes. So that makes me feel good that I've done that. That you and I have done that, coaching on your probably on your gray horse, and that you say that it's helpful. Like, that's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was wonderful. So I'd like to get to know you on a little deeper level, kind of introduce you to the world, your background, your experience, those types of things. So let's start where we start. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little cutting horse hotspot, and that's why I got into the horse world. I was born in Sun Valley, Idaho, and I was supposed to be a ski racer, and I wasn't good at that. And then I was supposed to go to school to be an engineer, and uh, and I was kind of on a good career path there, and I missed the horses. So when I was about 13, I'd been around horses a bit, but never performance horses. And my dad said, "You got to decide. You're gonna ski race, or do you want to do the horse deal? You can't do both. There's not time. There's not money for that." And and I'd pick I picked horses very very instantly. Like, I didn't think about it for a year or a month or a week or anything. I just knew that I wanted to go the horse route. And so what had happened is, my family, we always had horses. We rode them in the mountains, and my dad worked on a couple of ranches, but uh, um, we weren't in the show horse world beyond the level of 4-H. And then we got a brood mare, and she was kind of a cow horse bred mare. My dad knew the show horse world. He worked for Les Vogt. Long time ago, Les used to summer in Idaho, and my dad worked for him when he was up there in the summer, and then even spent a winter in California with him. So my dad knew the show horse world, but he didn't really intend to get me into it. We had this Tinky Poo bred mare. That was her breeding. She was in foal to a kind of a running bred stallion, and so we had one broodmare, and then those colts started to get old enough that they needed ridden, and my parents sent them to a horse trainer that lived very close by. His name's Kevin Coiner, and he's a phenomenal horseman. Very few people know of him, but he trained cutting horses. His foundation came from Dave McGregor in California. As far as you know, he was very much a student of the horse, but that was, I think, maybe his main mentor. Kevin was a great horseman. He started those colts for us, and the first one was supposed to be mine because I liked the horse deal. Well, then uh, Kevin said, like, "Hey, this horse is too green for this boy," meaning me, and maybe the boy should come lope some older horses, and I'll put a little bit more time on this horse and then work with them together. Because he was supposed to, I mean, this colt's got 90 days, and he's supposed to be my 4-H horse, like that fall, that summer. You know, fair's coming. That was the only horse show that I really knew. Well, that was at Cutters of Idaho, which was a pretty prominent uh, cutting horse barn for the region. It was owned by a guy named Charlie Cord. Charlie was in at the Bar H. Uh, the Bar H was a mecca of a cutting horse center in those times. So the horses that I was around there were outstanding horses that Charlie owned. Some of them came up from California or from Texas, and some of them were horses that Kevin trained, and Kevin was really good at what he did. And you want to talk about the difference between a horseman and a showman. I don't know a lot about Kevin Coiner's show career, but I know he's a better horseman than he was a showman. Um, and uh, Shout out to Kevin if he ever watches this. I know he's still around, but he flies under the radar quite well. Um, anyway, I got to be around some excellent horses, and the first horse that I ever got to cut on was a horse named Santari, and I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know anything about what it meant, but that horse won 100,000, and then that was a lot of money. That horse was 20 in the early 2000s, so that was an exceptional gelding. And I remember I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing at all, but I remember stepping to a cow and I just started to laugh and giggle, and I thought it was so cool. And the horse, the horse lights up, and so then when it became time to decide whether I was going to ski or ride horses, I I all but forgot skiing, and uh, worked for that barn in the afternoons after school through high school, and still didn't think I was going to be a horse trainer. Went to engineering school for a minute, and and uh, my one of my closest childhood friends is Austin Keys. He's a great cutting horse guy, uh, kind of more of a 2-year-old guy, but he can dang sure show one too. He lives down in Weatherford now, or down in that area. Anyway, Austin and I both worked for Kevin Coiner. We both went to engineering school, and we both realized that that was not for us. And we both left. Kevin went to work for some cutting horse trainers, and I went to work for Jake Telford, and I still green as grass. I really didn't know what I was getting into. I knew I was interested in the cow horse, um, but I went to work for Telford. I I stayed there for a summer, and
Before you get too much further, I want to expand on a few things that you mentioned because
yeah,
I think some of the things that are important for people to understand is some of those first show experiences. So you're riding a very seasoned cutting horse, apparently, correct? To the point where you maybe weren't even aware of just how great your horse was. Is that accurate?
oh, I had no idea. Yeah, I looked back. I looked up that horse's earnings probably when I was well into my 20s, and then picked my jaw up off the floor.
I love that.
I knew he was great, but I didn't know that.
So that first show experience, was it just like you were young enough that you just went into it, didn't have the nerves? Was it something that you were nervous about and kind of worried about before you went in the pen?
Oh, yeah, it's the same nerves that I fight today in the herd work that drives the horse up the pin. First time I cut it was at the ballet. The first time I showed a horse at an NCHA cutting, which wasn't Santari, by the way. Santari was just my practice horse. I got to show a horse named Superlativio and Spotter and Smoke. They were owned by Cindy Mann, and just two really nice older geldings. There was a lot of nice non-pros at that barn, very competitive non-pros, Cindy being one of them. So I got to show those horses thanks to Cindy, and I was at the ballet, and I cut my first cow and I drove it out past the judges' stand. I cut my second cow, drove it out past the judges' stand. Cut my third cow, drove it out past the judges' stand. I look over, and Greg Smith says, "Why quit now?" And so I go in there, I cut a fourth cow, and finally the buzzer goes off. That was the first time I showed at NCHA cutting.
Well, I think it's important for everybody to hear those first experiences. Don't always see the open ride is doing today. I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves early on, and I think it's important that everybody realize that you have to go through the motions and you have to kind of go through the school of hard knocks before you get those runs that matter.
So this is how that weekend went. I showed 4 times, and uh, that was my first run. I can't tell you precisely, but my second and third runs were. But my fourth run, I marked a 73, and that one was on Spotter and Smoke, and he was this great gelding. Well, there was a ton of people that hauled for the world, and they would hit that big show at the ballet, and 73 didn't win a check in the youth.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's the crowd that I was in, and that's how poorly I was performing. You know, I knew I wasn't performing well, but it's a long process to figure it out. And I didn't just keep marking 73s after that. If anybody's got their notepad out, but yeah, 73 didn't even win a check in the youth.
That is some tough competition.
Yeah, I know that Boyd was there, and I can't tell you who was in the youth. I could speculate on it, but I know that there were a lot of youth that are now um, very, very predominant in the cutting horse industry. Cade Smith, Caitlin Rice, positively were there. Um, I can't. I'd be speculating on who else.
Right, right. But definitely some difficult competitors, it sounds like. And but what a great experience you had. It sounds like you had some people in the barn you were training within and working within, um, that gave you some really great opportunities that early on.
Very generous people. Very, very generous people. Uh, yeah, Cindy, Kevin, Charlie Cord, Gina McDonald. Those are those are all weekend cutters. The Enrights, Lee and Nancy Enright. Those are all weekend cutters that gave me opportunity that didn't have to.
Right. I feel like it's something that you see a lot in our communities, whether it be the cutting or cow horse. Um, People kind of helping people get going and getting into the sport, and I think that's such an admirable thing because you don't see that in every horse discipline or every hobby out there in the world. So it's always nice to hear people supporting people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the ski racing, so how old were you when you were doing that?
From the time I was 2 to 12, like I don't know for sure, but I probably ski raced for the first time when I was like 4.
Jeez. So
Yeah.
basically not long after you were walking, you were skiing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't want to say it wasn't optional, but that was what we did.
That's what the family did.
Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
I have one brother. Uh, Not a lot of interest in skiing. Not a lot of interest in uh, horses. Uh, he's a city firefighter. He's a great human. Uh, he's a great parent to my niece and nephew, and CrossFit CrossFit coach, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a badass in fitness and stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, we took up pretty different hobbies.
Yeah. You see that sometimes within families, and that's okay. Diverse family is a good thing. Yeah. Okay. So ski racing, um, part of your life, skiing from the time that you basically started walking, and do you feel like that had any effects on the way you ride a horse?
Oh, undeniably, I don't know. I think about it a lot for could they have been positives or negatives, or should I be retraining any muscle memory because of something there? And I think uh, I actually think it was a healthy mental change for me um, to switch to horses, more so than like, oh yeah, the cross training or anything like that. Some people say it's really relevant, and I'm not saying it's not. For me, I didn't find a lot of relevance.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm always interested in how people's other sports or hobbies tie into their horseback riding. So just thought I would see if there was any correlations, but there's not always is. There always is. It's
So I don't want to jump around, or it's not. You be the leader if I'm jumping around, but I'll tell you that getting coached here recently at my uh, new sport of competitive slalom skiing, I say that very, very lightly. That is helping me as a coach tremendously, and I think helping my focus because I'm so elementary there. But I'm slalom skiing for recreation right now, water skiing, slalom skiing on the course, um, and I've got a really great coach. And to be that elementary, I'm really learning some stuff about. I can relate that to more than anything like my childhood of snow skiing.
right. I can see that. I think it's I've been a coach in my other lives, and I think that being a coach sometimes helps you learn. I think being coached through things also helps you learn how to be a better coach. And I think anybody who wants to be a really good coach should probably go take lessons in something.
I agree. It's huge.
It is huge. It's those interpersonal skills are a skill. I mean, there's no other way to put it. If you're not learning how to develop those, then that's going to make things a struggle for sure.
And not just YouTube. YouTube's a great tool, but not just YouTube.
Right. Yeah. Real life experiences where your feelings might hurt from time to time, or you might have to take some constructive criticism, or all those things. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's all great information. So I'm going to go back to where we were. So you were an assistant for Jake Telford. Tell me about that experience.
Oh, I saddled for Telford. I was, I was a laborer, and that's where I should have been, or I really shouldn't have been. Jake advised me. He said, if you want to get to ride more horses, you need to go to a program where there's more horses that you'll get to actually do something besides saddle them and trot them. And that was great advice. And so, I was kind of just a laborer at Jake's, but I am instantly in a program that's a what do you call it? Like competing at the highest level.
Right, a
At
top level program for sure.
the day I showed up, he had PG Dry Fire and CD Survivor, and Styla Bob was still there. Um, Kiss My Shiny Lips made the finals that year. That's a mother of Starlight Kisses. Uh, uh, what's the great Starlight stud that Holy Cow owned? That was the sire of Starlight Kisses. Shady Little Starlight was there. I mean, there was so many phenomenal horses. I'd read articles about CD Survivor, and I loved the CD Olinas just because of uh, how Charlie tied back to the Bar H and everything there. So I'd read about CD Survivor, and I made the comment early when I was it was early in the time I was there. It might have been the first day or first week, and I said, he's the one. And this other guy that works there, he looks around and he says, Ryan, around here a lot of them are the one. So going to Jake's was awesome. I was instantly in a very, very competitive program, way out of my league. All I should have been doing there was saddling at most, but made the most of it. So
Well, and there's so much that you can learn just by seeing how somebody like that operates their program, watching them ride horses. So if you get any free time to do any of that, you've definitely earned some benefits.
my introduction to fence work was Jake Telford all summer long doing fence works. Like, I feel so fortunate for that. He's one of the best fence work guys out there, and that was my introduction.
That's a cool introduction.
First impression, yeah, pretty huge.
So that was kind of your step into the cow horse world then from the cutting world?
Yep.
Yeah. So then from Jake's, with your desire to have more input in a program, where did you head next?
I went to Wade Rainey's, and I was very fortunate to go there. Um, I stayed at Wade's for 3 years, and I was very immature. I was 18 to 21 at that time, and so grateful for Wade. If I wouldn't have been at Wade's, I don't know if I would have stayed in the horse training world. Like, Wade tolerated my immature everything. Like I was a hard worker, I think, and I did my best, and so on. But uh, yeah, I just think that I probably wouldn't have stuck around the horse training world. I don't know what I would have gone and done or whatever, but I probably wouldn't have stuck around the horse training world if I would have had to be somewhere um, other than Wade's. I really owe that to him for tolerating me and my immaturity, trying to figure out how to train horses, and him trying to help me. And so 3 years at Wade's. Wade's also a phenomenal fence horse trainer. Uh, uh, Helped me network, encouraged me to get my judge's card when I was 21. Um, um, taught me how to show one. I mean, from the beginning of teaching me how to show one, different than the cutting horses. Not that I ever learned how to show them, but uh, Wade was very patient and very, very, very giving for the the young person I was.
What a great opportunity. So, from Wade's, what was your next step?
Well, Wade built me up. Wade made me feel like I was hot shit, and so I was ready to go out on my own, and I went to work for one of Wade's customers, and it was kind of a partnership deal, and uh, I went and trained their horses for a year and a half, and uh, still in close proximity to Wade. We're training out of the same barn pretty much all the time, and in that year and a half, I really figured out that I had nothing figured out. I don't know if that's how you say it, but that year and a half was humbling. I was winning on horses that other people had trained, and Wade was kind of still pulling me along, even though I didn't work for him. He was helping me to get horses to change leads. I still didn't understand that. I'd been working for horse trainers now for 4 years, not counting the cutting when I was in high school, and I didn't understand how to change leads on them, and I really didn't understand how to get that horse to connect with a cow. So, I could do some stuff, but those two places I really struggled, and it became very apparent. And Wade did help me along, but it was time to go back to work for a program, um, and that at that time Nick Dowers left Annie's, and I called Annie and I said, "Hey, can I'm interested in that job. I'd like to advance more, and can I have that job?" And Annie very upfront just said, "No, you're not. You're not handy enough to." She said, "You don't have what it takes to train my horses, but I've got a saddling position. If you want to come be my saddler, you can come be my saddler, and maybe in time you can work your way into that job." So, a little humble pie, and went to work for her, and that was the beginning of a higher education. Not that it was something that Wade couldn't teach to me or something like that, but it was just a different style and a different. Uh, the time in between Wade and Annie when I was out on my own was a really good dose of reality.
Right. Your time with Annie Reynolds, that had to be quite an experience with a long-lasting effect. She's such a such a influence within our industry and has such a great story. I'm sure you learned a ton from her.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. I can brag because it's hard there, and I worked for her longer than anybody, uh, and not more times. Some people have gone back a lot of times, but that's because it's a great place to work. Even when it's hard, it's a great place to work. And so Annie's Annie's program and Annie's paradigm is different than most, and it was fun to adopt that. Um, that is that is that she owns those horses, and she can't send those horses home, and um, she wants to. She wants to. She does run a very high and tight ship of every single one of those horses needs to maximize its potential like you would want your kids to or something like that. Like you you don't just count them out. And uh I'm grateful for that because I learned a lot about how to find the good in a horse. Annie used to tell me all the time, try to catch them doing something right. Try to find them doing something right. And which I think I've said that to you a time or two
You
actually.
sure have.
In I mean a lot of the Annie knows this and I'm grateful for this, but a lot of the uh, stuff I pass on to my students came from her and being able to relate to that horse. So that program, that I call it a paradigm shift of one, maximizing the horse and for what it is, because you can't there we couldn't send them home. They're already home. You cripple them, you doctor them. You don't send them to a rehab center. You 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 know, Annie doesn't blow horses up, but I bet that she would redo a few if she could, blow them up, whatever that means. But like she um, is very good at training a horse to have a lot of potential buyers, meaning that anybody can get along with that horse. So adopted a lot of that, as well as, you know, techniques or drills or whatever you want to call it. And this just the same as at Wade's or anywhere else, the things that I saw Jake doing when I was there, or the guys that we'd get to go ride with. Um, but then another thing at Annie's is uh, she's not afraid to send a horse to somebody to have them ride it. And so I got a really cool network really quickly, whether it was people coming there to work for her, like Nick Brunelli was a huge positive influence on me. Spent 2 years with Nick Brunelli, uh, or getting to go uh, ride with Randy Paul and learn how to work horses around a post. And I mean, I got to ride with a lot of people uh, for short periods of time or long periods of time because they were coming to her place. We were going to their place. Sometimes she'd just send the horse with me, and I was nothing but a taxi driver. But I was a fortunate taxi driver.
Yeah, because now you have a sneak peek behind the scenes of all these different experts within the industry, and I know you're the type that can watch and learn from watching. So I can only imagine that was, even as a taxi driver, that was probably a very beneficial experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was cool. It's
yeah.
very cool.
So, how long were you at Annie's?
5 years, 9 months, and 13 days.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Not that you were
Uh,
counting. Not that
yeah, that's only a convenient answer because I started on January 1st, and and I was burned out by the time I left there. I did briefly go to Nick Dowers after that, but uh, but I think after that I was kind of I deemed myself unemployable. Um, Not because of Annie either, just for the record, but for the situation. And I'm not going to go into the details of that, but that job was a lot of responsibility, and I did get to the point where I was not just a saddler or a taxi driver there. I got to train and show some great horses, great, great, great horses while I was there. The, the quality of horses around that place is unreal.
she definitely has I mean, she manages her own breeding program, correct? I mean, all those
Like
horses pretty much come from,
7 or 8 generations of horses.
yeah, uh,
Like
insane.
you need to do a podcast with her, but like I could tell you a lot of details, um, but that lady's practically a vet because of how many horses that she's rehabbed and reproed. Like like she's bred horses every way it could be done, and and rehabbed every injury you could think of. Um, just has a wealth of knowledge about the horse, and I will say right on the record, like more well-rounded than anybody out there, like every aspect of the horse.
Your time at Annie's, you started as a saddler, and then how did you start increasing those responsibilities? What other types of things did you end up doing in your experiences with her over the years?
Um, I worked my ass off. I is the truth of it. I my father was this way, and you didn't really say no to whatever task might come along, whether it's you need to fix the water truck I'm a pretty good golf cart mechanic because of my time at Annie's. Those are the only golf carts I've ever been around, I can fix an electric golf cart. Yeah, well, I can fix a gas golf cart too.
Well, you always
Uh,
have a backup job then. Look at that.
well, it's not what I was shooting for, but that's what I had to do to prove it. Um, like like she says jump, I say how high kind of mentality or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I just worked hard, and I enjoyed all the aspects too. Like I enjoyed the broodmare side, um, but I had faith in the program where I was, which I would suggest to an assistant trainer. If you don't have faith in that program, go find another one because there's a lot of ways to do this, and and it doesn't matter which one, whatever works is right. That's the saying. So um, she told me when you can do it on your horses, you can do it on mine. And so I had a couple of horses, and I train them. They were cow horses, generally different ages. I'd have about two or three at a time, and she'd help me with one or two of them at a time. And I don't know that I ever got to where I could train horses the way that she wanted me to, but apparently I got close enough, or I was valuable enough as a golf cart mechanic that she wanted to keep me around, and she gave me some show horses. And she let me start the colts, and I got to start some phenomenal ones. And uh, there was a guy named George Dines that came down and halter broke those horses. George has passed away, but uh, he's a phenomenal horseman. And talk about somebody that enlightened me to how pressure and release works for a horse. Probably that guy single-handedly helped me solve that puzzle
Hmm.
more than anybody. Uh, there are many that have helped me, but he could teach me about what the horse was thinking. Just another example of the great network that I got while I was there.
Right.
If George was alive, I'd I would pick his brain for the simplest problems because he was so good at solving them. A lot of times, a simple problem will hold a person back at a pretty high level, and he was so good at simplifying.
That is a such a beneficial skill when working with horses where you're supposed to make things as black and white and simple as possible. Like what an attribute to have and have that as a descriptor of the way you train.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I got to know all those people because of Annie. All those people. There's dozens that I'm not mentioning, um, not on purpose. Just it would take a long time. But yeah, George was very influential, and I'd spend days a year with him. He'd come down. He'd spend 3 or 4 days in the spring, 4 or 5 days maybe, and he'd spend 4 or 5 days in the fall, and and for the short amount of time that he was there, I'd just soak it up. And Annie knew it. Annie was like, "Hey, for the next 3 days, I want you to go watch George," and got done with chores, and I'd go watch George.
Right.
So
I love to hear that she facilitated that and encouraged you to, hey, take a break from cleaning those stalls or saddling those horses and go learn something. That's great. That's a good mentor.
yep,
Yeah.
she created a lot of opportunity.
So what was the first horse that you got to step into the show pen with Annie at Annie's program?
Oh,
Do you remember?
there was kind of some catch rides and stuff, but I got to show. I don't know if I want to say the first one. Actually, yeah, I do. A mare named Smart Magic Trick. Awesome mare. She let me show her in the two rein, and like dirty good fence horse, dirty good reining, or dirty good in the rein work, and and probably the best in the herd work. But there was no herd works in the two rein in those days. But Smart Magic Trick was awesome to show. Uh, Super gritty mare, full sister to Magicality and all those great ones. Very smart remedy out of Magicalina. If you don't know what that means, look it up. Like, uh, she was so cool, and I felt pretty cool when I was driving around and getting to show that mare.
I bet.
They had just made my favorite story of that one. They just made the change the rule back to if the judge gave you a new cow and you wanted to stay on yours, you could do it. You could stay on it. And I got to show her at the Idaho Futurity in the 2 rein, and they offered me a new cow, and I was like, no, what are you guys talking about? I know this is hard. Watch this, and I got to stay on I did stay on my cow, and I wrapped it up pretty nicely. And by that I mean that mare wrapped it up nicely, and I can't remember what they marked us, but like 148 or something, and I think it was 148, and that's a short story of what kind of horse that was. Like you call on her, and she's just like, you bet, watch this.
So that did that kind of earn you the benefit in Annie's eyes to maybe step in the show pen for a few more times?
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but I at least got to play again.
Right.
Got to show some great ones. Dr. Spark, Magic Cat. Magic Cat was a fun one. I think I won the limited open at the Derby. I won the limited open at the Derby by 26 points in the finals,
Wow.
and I made the intermediate finals, and I just barely missed the open finals on her. She was a really good show horse. Um, I won the I won the limited at the Derby. I won the limited at the Hackmore Classic. I think I was top 10 at the Hackmore Classic on her in the Open. Uh, top 10 at the Idaho Derby, maybe like third or fourth at the Idaho Derby. Anyway, that mare, like they just start giving you the money when you stepped in the pen on that mare, because she had that sort of presence to her,
Right.
which I don't always know that I have that myself. Um, it's something I'm working on in my showmanship, but that mare made it up for me.
Right.
Um, all those horses had a magical Lena. You could ride in the warm up pen and on any of them out of that mare, and everybody would be like, wow. Didn't matter if it was a stud or a mare or a 2 year old or 8 year old.
Yeah. It's amazing the separation that you can get in a horse that, like you said, just has that presence and confidence in the way that they move and think, and it's really a game changer.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
it was a fun experience.
I bet it was. I bet it was. Kind of taught you how to win, I bet.
Yeah, at the time, I didn't know that there was another way. I mean, I say that respectfully, like
Yeah, of course, yeah.
just very, very competitive horse.
Well, I mean, we all know if we've spent much time in this industry that the wins and losses ebb and flow, and you may be on top, but you're dang sure probably going to see the bottom a few more times, and you kind of have to be okay with going through those motions.
Isn't that
Yeah,
how it is?
yeah, for
Yep,
sure. So, your time with Annie comes to a wrap, and you spend a short time with Nick Dowers.
yep.
Any insightful moments from that experience? Was it a kind of a short experience, or
I went there for a winter. Uh, uh, it was actually when they started that Cowboy Week. It was the first. It was the first Cowboy Week, but it wasn't like they didn't video it or anything then. And um, yeah, I mean Nick's so phenomenal. He's a wizard. He's a wizard. He's great. Uh, and and it was a good place. It just wasn't a good place for me at that time in my life, and I uh, I left there in a respectful fashion, and I didn't know how long I was going to be there when I went there, and I know that Nick wanted somebody that was going to be there for a long time, but I definitely did not have another 6 year employment in me.
right?
And if you don't have your heart in it, uh, if you don't have your heart in it, there's no reason to stick around really. You can do the task and then you can carry on.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, and that's kind of what it was at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I couldn't learn anything there. I definitely learned from Nick.
He is pretty uh,
Guy's a
fun to
wizard,
watch show a horse for sure. I know I
unreal.
reference when I'm building my mental pictures, I reference his style a lot, especially in the rein work. I would love to even look a tenth as cool as that. So yeah,
Yeah, me too. Me too.
yeah, right. Wouldn't we all?
I still do. The guy's a great horseman. Like
Hmm.
he's so smart. He's wise.
Yeah. So you leave Nick Dowers, and do you immediately go to starting your own program, or did you do some things between?
It was time, and I knew it, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew that I was going to do it.
Hmm.
And uh, I went out on my own, put a post on Facebook, and slowly but surely the phone started ringing. I mean, it didn't ring off the hook or anything like that, but uh, there was people that were ready to send me horses, and uh, so I went out on my own, and I really, I didn't have a family with the resources to back me up or anything like that. Like I was really taking a risk, or I mean, it's not risk is the wrong word. Uh, I used to have a coffee cup. It's kind of funny that the couple of coffee cups that I've had in my life that have had a big influence on me, but it was a NASA space exploration coffee cup, and it said failure is not an option, and I believed that, and it wasn't, and it's not, and when you have that mindset, it's a it's a good mindset. If I don't know if it's healthy because you might work yourself to death, but I knew I was gonna like I have this purple plastic brush, and that was the only brush I had. I mean, I had to go buy brushes, and I didn't have money. I had 1.5 saddles. I mean, I had a saddle that was good and a saddle that wasn't good, and I had a 3-horse trailer that had a loan on it, and uh, Bill and Linda Zoomstein were are like family to me, and they co-signed on that trailer because when you're unemployed, you don't get financed for anything. Rightfully so. There's no money to pay the note, which I stayed current on my bills and everything like that. But uh, Bill and Linda were great to me, but I didn't. Without them, I probably wouldn't even had a horse trailer. So
And they're still a part of your program today, aren't? I mean,
yeah, Bill, he shows in the non-pro bridle. Has one of those good magical full siblings to Magicalinas, and uh, yeah, he comes and rides all the time.
I love that. Um, yeah, and it just seems that we build a lot of long-term relationships in this industry, and when you find your people, it's sure nice to have those people having your back like that.
Yeah, you know, Clinton Anderson says don't burn bridges or something like that. He's got a saying that I can't quite recite right now. He's pretty crafty in the way he says it, but I pretty well believe in that. It's okay to part ways, but do it respectfully.
Agreed.
You don't have to throw a fit while you walk out the door.
Well, yeah, and it's such a small community, and uh, you don't want to have to deal with those hard feelings for eternity. So it's best to just be kind and understanding of what people need. And when things align, then that's great. And when they don't, then that's okay too.
It's okay too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love
There's
that.
other non-pros out there, or non-pros. There's other customers. There's other horses. There's other programs, and
A big part of your program is your non-pro program, and I want to talk a little bit about your coaching style. Having the privilege of taking some lessons from you and interacting with you at that level, um, I can tell you I've always admired the way that you view horsemanship and the way that you communicate it to non-pros. You're very patient and thoughtful in what you say, and you have a really good way of explaining the thought process the horse may be having in that moment and how you as the rider can communicate better with the animal you're riding. Um, do you feel like that's something that that coaching style is something that you were just naturally born with, or is that something that you've honed and a skill that you've created?
I think that's a little bit because I was a slow learner. I had good patient mentors, but it took me a while to figure some things out. And um, um, my athletic ability or my understanding, or my ability to learn has a lot of loft to it. You know what loft means?
I mean, I'm thinking as in rising, but
Lack of effing talent.
oh, an acronym for that. I got it. I got
um,
it.
I relate to that, and I'm okay with it. And so I really did have to learn things thoroughly, and it took me a while. I worked for horse trainers for pretty much 11 years, and not counting the high school part when I was just getting my feet wet in the cutting. And so I learned a lot and slowly, and I'm grateful for that because now I think I do have an ability to portray the information well, which is important to me.
Hmm.
And I think it's because I had to work kind of hard to learn it. Like,
Hmm.
I don't believe in arguing for your limitations, but I think I was a slow learner. And I also think I've learned how to learn. So I don't believe that I'm a slow learner anymore.
And it's funny that you say that because I've always equated you to the type of person that is constantly seeking knowledge. I feel like every time I have a conversation with you, you're telling me about a video you just watched or a conversation you just had with somebody like Randy Paul or Annie Reynolds, or I know you're taking water skiing lessons right now. Like, I feel like you're the type of person that seeks and admires knowledge. So, whether you feel you're a slow learner or not, the fact that you've never avoided that process and have really embraced that process says a ton about your perseverance.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's definitely something I've admired for sure. So, on that note, your non-pro program, there's a few things that I've noticed and I wanted to bring up. So, along with being a good human coach, um, we were recently in Winnemucca, and I I was asking you for advice on how to properly school my bridle horse, and you made a comment about how much you enjoy schooling horses, and I loved that because I just thought, wow, I mean, maybe it's just not a conversation I've had much with other people, but I felt like that was not maybe necessarily the most common response to that. But um, knowing the benefits of schooling your horse and the fact that you have that mindset, I thought that was really great. Um, so can you tell me a little bit more about your schooling process as well and why you feel that way?
Um, I can try. Those horses don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They don't know. They didn't ever read the pattern. They don't know what pattern 11 is. Um, they don't know what a scorecard is or anything like that. And they don't actually deserve to be uncomfortable or have show pen anxiety or not understand the maneuver in or out of the show pen or whatever. And when your horse starts to breathe and think and relax, that's the reward when they have it, when they have a clear understanding of their task. And we clog that up with the show pen. And I'm okay with that. I'm not like, I want to be a performance horse trainer. I know I named my business Ryan Thomas Horsemanship because I think the horsemanship's important. But I do like the performance horse industry. It's not just about who can pet them the best. And so when you get them a little bit more relaxed, like supreme athletes don't live a relaxed life. They have to push hard. But when they get to do it a little bit relaxed, that's so rewarding to me. It's
Right.
really fun. I do remember making that statement, but I didn't think it was that big of a statement.
Well, it was
Feels good.
impactful and something I thought about and wanted to expand on. So, no, I do admire that, and I admire that thought process in general. So, on show day, do you have a specific process you follow for mental prep? I mean, obviously, you prep your horse for all those things, but is there something you do to prepare yourself as a showman?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things. The biggest thing is probably envisioning. Like every horse shows a little different, and if you've shown that horse more than a couple of times, you should have an idea of how that is. And I think even, you know, you rarely get to show a horse in ideal conditions or whatever, in an ideal situation. So you need to envision with the reality of it might not be ideal. And so if you know that horse has anxiety through the lead change, or um, uh, runs fast in the rundown, or pick whatever, anticipates their turnaround, doesn't rate very good, uh, pick whatever. You kind of need to envision that. So, and I didn't invent any of this. This all came from uh, books about sports psychology and stuff. But I'll write down my affirmations, and I'll envision every horse, because you can do that in the warm up right there within an hour when you show. At the bigger ones, I write down my affirmations starting days before. I have a uh, neat little booklet of affirmations that I've written down, just about things that I'm going to do my best to show that horse. And um, so those are probably the two biggest ones. And then how you warm them up. Some horses you want them more tired, and some horses you don't really want them more tired. You want them just listening to you, and
Right. The envisioning your run. I know that's a method that I've used, but I've made the mistake of envisioning the perfect run, right? Which maybe is what we want, obviously, but also doesn't, I think, sometimes mentally prepare you for what might go wrong. And listening to you say that, that's something that I realize is, okay, let's say my horse is going to get strong in a rundown. I can't envision it going with him loping down there with his head all pretty and being polite. I need to probably prepare myself for the fact that he's going to get strong in the rundown and that I need to be there to help him through that moment of pressure so that he can do his best. Am I right in assuming that?
that's the horseman I want to be.
Right.
You know, the reined cow horse. We're allowed to use the reins. Um, Help them where they need it. It'll run like wildfire if you don't, especially the anxiety part.
Right.
Going back to what you said a minute ago about, like, I love schooling horses, and that fires me up, getting them right, but help them through the bad parts.
Right. I think that's great advice. On that note, if you were to give a non-pro one golden piece of advice on show day, what would that advice be?
Oh man, I don't know. I'd need to figure it out for myself, really. uh, one time, Randy Paul just said, "Trust your training," and so that's a big one. And uh, one time, I mean, they're getting at the same thing, but one time Nick Dowers kind of gave me a little pep talk right before I showed in the rain work, and he says like, hey, you know, like believe in here, and he kind of does that, and and having that mindset, like a lot of those non-pros are scared to death before they go show. The youth kids aren't, and then they go have these either set them on fire or crash and burn runs,
Right.
and which is cool, except for the rest of us have lived enough life where we're a little more cautious.
Exactly.
So I would say that I don't like that so many non-pros can be so uncertain of the task at hand, but also like believe in what you like define for yourself what you know and believe in it, and and remember that when you go show them,
Right.
because a lot of them look scared to death out there.
I know I tend to veer that direction occasionally, so it's it's a
And
hard thing. We care so much about what we're doing, and it's really hard to just go out there and look like you're as confident as can be. Yeah.
yeah,
So as you're working with your non-pros, you're at the shows, you're judging, you get to see a lot of people horseback in general, whether it be at a show or outside of the show pen. And is there something that you consistently see people doing, specifically non-pros, that you would tell them maybe they could consider a different method that would benefit them?
well, whatever works is right. You know, there's a lot of ways to train a cow horse or a cutting horse or a reining horse, and if it works, it's right. But uh, more specific to the non-pros is try to understand it from the horse's end of the spectrum. I don't care what your uh, lifetime earnings is, or your non-pro status is, or your anything like that. We're all horsemen at whatever level, and uh, we we need to think about it from the horse's end of the spectrum sometimes. So I mean, be considerate of your horse. What are they thinking about? Do they have an understanding of it? They can not have an understanding of it, and if you're handy, you can get them through it, and that's okay. You're allowed to, even in the cow horse, uh, but still be receptive of that, of your presence to that horse.
Right. And you go so far as to say, um, consider that even as far as the tack you use and how you use it. Um, we actually videoed a little instructional portion of talking about proper bridle fit and chin straps, and we'll include that in this podcast. Um, but I really appreciated that information and the insight in that. And so, I mean, not only are you talking about how we ride our horse and how we present things to our horse, but you're also talking about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so many factors. Like there's some there's some wonderful bits that this horse just doesn't like. That horse just doesn't like. And the non-pro will have, not just the non-pro. You see it in the level one all the time, just as bad or worse. But they bought the rider likes this bit or this saddle, so they bought that, and it really doesn't uh, fit that horse. And I don't just mean like their anatomy, but I mean the it's not relevant to the task that you're trying to complete, or or yeah,
Or the frame of mind of that horse, maybe.
the frame of mind of that horse. Absolutely, you know, to get a bigger bit is not usually the best solution.
Right,
It can be fine as long as it's means to an end,
right.
but uh, Yeah, the way the bridle fits, like my way's not the only way. Like I said in that video, but my way's not the only way. But if you're not, uh, if you don't have any um, philosophy for yourself, that's a big thing about my non-pros. I want them to build their own philosophy. Uh, they can have all of my program and tools and everything I got, um, but they need to be developing their own philosophy. And if they go to a clinic on the weekend and they have an aha moment, that's great. If they learn something that I've never even attempted to teach them, that's even better. And whatever level of rider you are, that's important. You need to be building a philosophy because that horse is uh, like that horse's feelings matter, or that horse's uh, state of mind matters.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a lot of people that have $100,000 truck, $100,000 trailer, uh, really expensive tack, and they don't think about it from their horse's perspective. And that's where I think that's where I'm a little bit of an outlier, is that I want my non-pros to have a philosophy of their own. And I'm all right with, you can spend as much money on a truck and trailer as you want, but don't tell me that you can't buy another bag of shavings. Don't tell me that you can't buy a bit or a saddle pad that works a little bit different or better for your horse. Or uh, another thing is the people that will go and spend thousands and thousands on entries, trucks, trailers, entries, and all this stuff, but they hardly ever get lessons or take the time to practice. And it's like, you should have got into motorcycles, because the motorcycle doesn't have feelings. The motorcycle doesn't really care when when they're not being respected.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
there's there's some there's some really great horsemen that don't have a fancy truck, and they have a lot more respect for their horse.
Right.
And I think that's huge.
So do you feel like that very idea and preface is the basis of true horsemanship?
Whew, that'd be a bold statement, but it can't be too far from that.
Yeah. I feel like there's at least a foundation lying in what you're saying there.
Yeah, yeah, you can define it. There you go. Define it for yourself, but it has to be along that same
Yeah,
paradigm.
for sure. So is that something that you really try to impart on your non-pros within your program? Is that true horsemanship frame of mind?
I would say yeah, or I'll dang sure give them a couple of chances, and if they're not really trying for themselves, then I'm probably not going to spend my time on them.
Right.
They can still be great humans, and we'll still be friends, and
Of
so
course.
on and so forth. But yeah, I think I'm going to spend my time on the person that tries a little harder.
Right.
And that oftentimes that's a youth kid. That's uh, it doesn't really have anything to do with their finances or their time availability or whatever. Oftentimes that's just a matter of character for that
Mm-hmm.
person. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like you're a good example of that. You work really hard to try to figure out how to train those horses, and and as I talked about earlier, like I had to work pretty hard to try to figure it out, and I still do. It doesn't get easier, but the 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 best part is that we get to keep working on it. Like those legends of cow horse trainers that are not young. I mean, Dougie rode for his entire life, and I don't know how old he was when he passed away not that long ago, but uh, some of those guys are not very young, and I'm currently 36 years old, which means that I've got 36 more years at least to work on this, and I'm stoked about that.
Absolutely.
Like, hell yeah.
It's kind of a never-ending process, don't you, Phil?
For all of us.
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
anybody who plans on doing it again.
I feel like once you think you have it figured out, you better think again. Right?
Or just get out. If you got it figured out, get out, and just remember that you had it figured out when you left, and never look back.
Right. Go hang that bridle up on the wall. Call it a day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree. But don't you feel like that's one of the most motivating parts of what we do is I mean, and by what we do, I mean riding horses, working with horses, even just being around them, is that there's always a new challenge, a new thought process, another angle. You're never going to get bored.
If you do, it's your own fault. I've gotten a rut before, and it's my own fault. Just if it's boredom or frustration, go get help. Whether if you're non-pro, go get lessons, or go to a different clinic, or watch some new videos or whatever. But make a change, and don't wait. You never need to get bored. There's so much cool information. There's so many cool ways to work horses, and we're so lucky that we can jump in a pickup and drive down the road and ride with other people, and we're so lucky that we can watch information on the internet. We've got people like you bringing information to us from all over the place. Right. And if you're bored, it's your own fault.
We definitely live in an era where it is easy and can be very economically friendly to find information. There's so many videos and opportunities out there in this day and age. You can get a membership to Ring Cow Horse Online, or you can get a membership to Cutting Horse Online Training. They're reasonable fee. So even if lessons are outside of your ability, then there are more economical options.
I'm not trying to put a sales pitch in here, but the little personalized videos that I'm doing, like, I think I would do that for anybody that's willing. Like Absolutely. I said, like it's, message me on Facebook or something, and we can talk about it. I don't care if you live in Alaska or whatever. Mm-hmm. You can make progress, and I'm not the only guy that does that. They do them on Rein Cow Horse or Cutting Horse Training Online or whatever. So.
Well, and that's actually something that we've talked about doing is me videoing myself going down the fence on my 3-year-old or whatever the case may be, and you watching that video, recording your voice over it and your instructions and sending it back to me. And man, it just makes it so accessible no matter where you are. Such a convenient process, and really kind of eliminates any excuses.
Yeah. Yeah, never argue for your limitations.
Yeah, absolutely. So, where are you at with your program currently? Do you have any agendas for the year 2025? Any things in the works?
I've got a really good set of non-pros and local level non-pros for the most part, and I'm excited about them. Some of their horses I show as well, and then I've got a decent little set of 3-year-olds. So I have enough show horses that I'll be dang sure at the regional shows and maybe at a few bigger ones, depending on how those horses are doing. But I've got a good little set of show horses this year, and show them to the maximum of their ability and the owner's desires. So most of those will be regional type shows, but maybe a few of those will be going to the bigger shows. I've got a good little set of futurity horses, decent little set of futurity horses, and we'll see where they are in a couple more months. And then helping my non-pros is is something I'm passionate about right now. It's really fun watching them progress. As long as they're feeling like they're making progress and I'm feeling like they're making progress, then it's really rewarding, fulfilling, or whatever the right word would be.
And you can see it in your coaching style that is a place of fulfillment for you, and it really makes it comfortable to come and take a lesson from you or to send you a video because as the client, you know that you 100% want the best for the person that you're helping, and that's a very admirable quality.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're on a couple of different boards within the industry, and I've gotten a sneak peek into that part of the world through some marketing opportunities I've had, and I had gone to a few shows before I got that behind the scenes look, and it was shocking to me. I don't know that the average person realizes how much goes on behind the scenes of putting on a horse show. But can you tell me a little bit about your experiences as a board member and which boards you serve?
I'm on the Idaho Reined Cow Horse Board and the Gem State Stock Horse Board, and I'm kind of the only guy that's on both of those two boards, which is that gives me a little bit of purpose on both, just because I know what is going on. I stay active in my position, which isn't I'm not president of either one, at least yet, or anything like that. But I am active on both, and so I know what the other ones got in mind for whichever meeting I'm at, and uh, you already said it. Like, people don't have any clue what goes on behind the scenes, and there's so many great, willing board members uh, that those shows are pretty damn well run production. Uh, and there's some people out there that are like show managers, Morgan Tweedy in particular, uh, cattle guys. There's so many things that are planned for months or sometimes years in advance, and then when you get there and hear somebody complaining about the this or that, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
we just nailed it on 157 different bullet points.
Right.
And one of those is vulnerable and you're bitching about it.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Well, and I don't think people realize 97% of the people working behind the scenes are volunteers. Like, there's a very small portion of people that are in paid positions through that process,
and they're not paid enough.
and they're not
Those
paid
show
enough.
secretaries,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
those show secretaries are amazing. There's a lot of good ones out there right now, but man, they're good. They work. They're so good at their job. I cannot imagine being that person.
Yeah, I'm not that organized.
I'm not that person. I'm just not. But I sure admire them for what they do. And then, yeah, I mean the judges and the scribes and the back gate guy and the cow guys. You know, you want to talk about good cows. Here's something that people really never think about is they want good cattle and they pay for good cattle, and somebody worked really hard to find good cattle. Somebody's gracious enough to let us use their good cattle. And then there's somebody right on the back side of the gate letting them in that maybe has a hot shot or a rattle paddle or whatever, and they turn that big good cow into a bad cow right before that person put weeks or months or years into their training, drove hundreds of miles to that horse show, stayed up all night schooling their horse,
Mm-hmm.
and they just turned that really good Charlet into a no good son of a gun right before they kicked it in.
Absolutely.
Like a good cow guy and a good cow crew back there is such an undervalued, underappreciated thing, underappreciated position.
And talk about a long day. I mean, those guys are in the saddle for, I mean, I know some of the Gym States and Idaho shows, maybe they've been in the saddle for 14 hours.
Yep.
And yeah, it seems pretty thankless. So yeah, I mean, just all things to consider when we show up to these shows, that all of these people are working really hard. And a lot of people, like the board members, are working year round. I know, I mean, in your board situations, you have like monthly meetings. So it's not like you just showed up a couple days before the show and voila, it was all it was all there.
Somebody needed to hang the banners.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
it's
Exactly.
there's so much that goes into it, and I'm grateful to be on those boards. I'm encouraged by it. It's a orchestra or something. You know, orchestra's wrong. It's an orchestrated event. I'm encouraged by being on those boards because there's those two boards are in great shape. They've got great board members, and they're both growing associations. The finances are growing. The customer service is growing. Sponsorships growing. The advertising that the sponsors are reaching is growing. There's so many things. So both those associations are growing, and I'm grateful to be on them. And I also encourage somebody, if you happen to be bored with your horse, maybe you could find a little bit of something to do by volunteering for a board, because volunteer and then be effective when you get there. Don't just be somebody that talks at the meeting. But young trainers could be on boards, non-pros can be on boards. It takes all parties. You want to have all aspects, like all aspects at those meetings.
Yeah, owners, non-pro, the whole 9 yards.
Owners, breeders, non-pros, open guys, people that have been there a long time, and people with fresh new ideas.
Right.
They're all important.
Right.
And then manpower to implement it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, a horse show is basically run as a business, and you want that business to run effectively for all parties involved, including those open riders, non-pros, owners, breeding organizations. Like, you want this to be beneficial to the entire industry as a whole. So I think it's great when you see a mix of people like that on board that's really shaping the presentation of what a horse show looks like.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I definitely, I encourage anybody that hasn't had a look behind the scenes at that to maybe consider using some of your free time to help out, because it's, if nothing else, it will give you a new appreciation for what goes into producing a horse show. But
yep.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Ryan, any other topics that you would like to discuss? Anything on your mind you want to get off your mind?
Gosh, I don't know. Appreciate the conversation, and hope it's worth listening to. I think I hope it changes some people's mindset on what they're doing with their horse.
And
so appreciate you letting me talk.
Of course, it was an honor to have you as a guest. You were absolutely at the top of my list, somebody I definitely wanted to get in front of the microphone. And I mean, if people would like to talk to you more about horsemanship skills, lessons, training, those types of things, where can they find you?
Look me up on Facebook, Ryan Thomas Horsemanship. He has a Facebook page, or just call me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that you're, in my experience, have always been super helpful and happy to take those messages and calls and give valid feedback. So if anybody is looking for some help, I definitely suggest reaching out.
Thanks, Leah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us out here at your beautiful property with our amazing view behind us. We're sitting out here in the field, and for those of you that aren't actually watching, it's been a lovely day, a slight breeze, but we needed it because it was kind of sunny, and
getting warm.
We're not acclimated to the sun quite yet here in Idaho, but we're getting there. But I sure appreciate you being on the podcast, and I will definitely see you at the shows.
Heck yeah.
Thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and Thanks for coming along for the ride, and don't forget to use more leg.
Nice.